When my biological parents finally found me, I was at the fish market, chopping fish. In the blazing summer heat, I wore a soaked apron. The sharp sound of my cleaver echoed with every strike. My whole body reeked of fish and blood mingled together. I froze when I saw them. Those faces felt so distant, so unfamiliar. Awkwardly, I asked, "Would you like to buy a grass carp?" The man didn't smell of fish at all. He gently pulled me into his arms. "Darling, you're our daughter. We've come to take you home now. Is that all right?" Seeing the sincerity in his voice, I nodded in agreement, but on one condition: I had to bring along my little dog. I couldn't understand the complicated emotions in their eyes. Dad patted my head softly. "Sweetheart, when we get home, we'll buy you a new puppy, all right? A Maltese, or a Mantis, whichever you like." I shook my head, hugging my little dog tightly before climbing into their car. Mom kept staring at me, warning me not to dirty the seats. I nodded quickly, holding my dog, Brownie, close. "Mom, I'll be good." Brownie too. Only then did she turn away, no longer looking at me. I sat in their car as we drove back. At the gate stood a girl about my age. She wore a long, pure white dress, with a tiny flower pinned in her hair. She looked beautiful, like someone out of a dream. Mom hurried over to embrace her, stroking her back. "Honey, Mommy's home." I clutched Brownie and hid behind Dad. I felt too dirty, afraid to stain that pure white dress. The girl turned, as if wanting to hug Dad, but hesitated, not daring to step forward. Sensing this, I quickly moved aside. But Dad pulled me back. "This is your sister. Though she's adopted, she's been treated as our own for years. She's your real sister now." I nodded, rubbing my hands against my clothes a few times before reaching out. "Hello, sister." She looked startled, glancing at Mom. "Is my sister disgusted because I'm dirty?" I asked Dad. His eyes filled with tears. He held my outstretched hand tightly. "No, sweetheart, you're not dirty." Mom finally reacted, looked at me, then told the maid, "Take her upstairs and help her wash up." Actually, I wasn't dirty at all. Every day after selling fish, I always washed up carefully. But this was the very first time I ever soaked myself in a bathtub. It felt so new, so strange. Auntie June was bathing Brownie. Turns out, Brownie wasn't a yellow dog like I thought, he was pure white. I felt a little embarrassed. While I was enjoying the warmth of the bath, Mom walked in, carrying a dress. "This is Emily's dress. When I have time, I'll take you shopping for new clothes." Your dad hasn't even finished talking yet. But I had already jumped up, my eyes shining bright. I grinned foolishly at her. "A dress? It's the first time I've ever worn a dress. It's so pretty." Mom stared at me, then suddenly burst into tears. Did I scare her? She hugged me tightly, her voice trembling with pain. "Sweetheart, why do you have so many scars on your body?" I looked down at my arms, legs, and shoulders. Some scars had nearly faded, some were freshly healed, and some came from when I first started cutting fish. At the beginning, I wasn't used to it, so I often cut myself. Some scars were from my foster father. Whenever he got drunk, he would beat me. I said it so casually. But later, I got really good at chopping fish. I never cut myself again. "See, Mom? Aren't I skilled?" I put on a proud face, waiting for praise. But instead, Mom held me even tighter, sobbing even harder. She helped me into the dress, though it hung a little loose. Then, for some reason, she cried even louder. Dad rushed in, asking what happened. "She's way too skinny," Mom cried. "She doesn't look like a girl who's almost 16. So that was it. I sighed in relief. I thought she was crying because I looked ugly in my sister's dress. The first time I wore a dress, I couldn't stop spinning around, so delighted. I kept asking Dad if I looked pretty. Then suddenly, I bumped into a pole. But wait, there wasn't a pole in the middle of the hallway. It was my brother. He looked at me with disgust. Where did this skinny little monkey come from? Right after that, Dad gave him a good scolding and even a beating. I stood by, puffing air on his arm as if to help him with the pain. I told him, if I blow on it, the pain will go away soon. He looked at me, half crying, half laughing. Now, the only one in the house who still didn't dare come close to me was my sister. But I had already washed up and was clean. Yet, when she looked at me, she too burst into tears. That's when I realized, I seemed to have some strange power, a power that could make anyone who saw me cry. My sister clung tightly to Mom and wouldn't let go. Mom, I don't want to go cut fish. Why not? I asked. Cutting fish is fun. Every time I cut one, my foster dad gave me $1. I've already saved nearly $1,000. $1,000, Mom turned to Dad in desperation. Dad's eyes fell back on me. Why does she have to cut fish, Dad? I asked. He explained gently, because she's the child of your foster parents. After you went missing, they took her in, believing it was fate, and raised her as their own. No wonder she looked so familiar to me, she resembled my foster mother. What a coincidence. So, I was my parents' lost daughter, taken in by foster parents. And my sister was the foster parents' lost child, taken in by my real parents. Dad asked me, sweetheart, what if we don't bring her back? Would that be all right? If our family earns $3,000 a month, then yes, I answered with a smile. Why 3,000? He asked. Because I only spend $500 a month. 3 kids would need about $1,500. Add Dad, Mom, and Auntie too, that makes 6 people. So, we'd need $3,000. I counted carefully on my fingers. Dad's eyes turned red again. Oh no, when would this strange ability of mine, this power to make people cry, finally disappear? I hadn't cried since I was 5 years old. And yet, here they were, all grown, still crying. Sweetheart, Dad said softly, you can spend $5,000 a month if you want. Your mom and I are very wealthy. Look around, our home is full of big houses. We can afford it. $5,000? I gasped. So my parents were rich after all. That meant, of course, they could take care of my sister. In fact, they could probably take care of many sisters. Emily looked at me timidly. Please, just don't send me away. I don't want to be separated from Mom and Dad. Of course not, I reassured her. Mom let out a sigh of relief and hugged Emily tightly. Watching the two of them embrace, my own eyes unexpectedly filled with tears. Strange, isn't it? What was wrong with me today? Why did I just say they cried too easily, yet here I was, crying along with them? Dad glanced at Mom and cleared his throat with a cough. Sniffling, I asked, Dad, are you sick? But instead of answering, he bent down and hugged me tightly. This time it was fair, one parent holding each child. At least, that's what I thought. No, wait. That wasn't fair at all. I wriggled out of Dad's arms, turned, and hugged my brother instead, then tossed Brownie into Dad's arms. MHM. Now it's fair, I thought proudly. Aunt June saw us all tangled together like one big knot and laughed, calling everyone to dinner. We went into the dining room. Never in my life had I seen such a grand feast. My brother scoffed, saying I looked like some country bumpkin. I didn't care. My sister picked up food and placed it into my bowl. I held it out to catch. Mom laughed at the sight of us getting along. Ah, so you still accept your sister after all? But strangely, the piece of food my sister gave me slipped and fell to the floor, even though I had caught it very carefully. She said nothing. My eyes were fixed only on the piece of eggplant lying on the ground. I bent down, picked it up with my hand, and ate it. Mom stared at me like I was some kind of monster. Flustered, I explained, if food falls and you pick it up within 5 seconds, it's still fine to eat. I used to eat like that all the time. Besides, the floor is so shiny and clean, it's not dirty at all. For a brief moment, I saw a flash of surprise in my sister's eyes. But then her expression returned to normal. Softly, she said, "Sister, it was my fault. I didn't pick it up well enough." "It's okay," I reassured her. "I'll just get it myself next time." "So you do still dislike me," Emily muttered, on the verge of tears again. No, it's not that," I said quickly, embarrassed. "I just wanted to try a little bit of each dish without troubling you." I was so flustered that I actually crawled under the table to hide. My brother burst out laughing, which only made me refuse to come out. In the end, Mom pulled me out and filled my bowl herself, giving me a little bit of everything. I had never tasted food this delicious in my entire life. My joy returned instantly. But then I froze. Wouldn't my foster parents miss me? Emily looked at me curiously. "Sis, don't you miss your foster parents?" "I can't even imagine what it would be like to be separated from Mom and Dad." "Yeah. I do miss them a little. Cutting fish was tiring, but every fish I cut earned me $1. Over the past 2 years, I've saved up $1,000, I replied cheerfully. Besides, even though my foster dad often hit me, he always avoided my face. It never affected my work at the market. And also, all the kids around me said school was exhausting. That's why my foster parents never sent me to school." I said this happily. My sister just froze in shock. I figured she must be admiring my life. "If you want to experience it, I can take you along," I offered. "I have plenty of experience, I can definitely guide you. Together, we'll rule the fish market." "Mom. She's scaring me again," Emily cried, clutching Mom tightly. "Huh? Little sister, I didn't even do anything. I just thought our foster parents would be happy to see you. Because they were always happy with me. Don't cry anymore." I wasn't good at comforting people. So I blurted out, "Here, I'll give you all my money." I took off the cloth pouch I always wore around my neck, even when bathing. Inside was the $1,000 I had saved in 2 years, neatly stacked. With a heavy heart, I held it out to her. But she didn't take it. The bills slipped from my hands, scattering across the floor. "Little sister, do you still think I'm dirty?" I whispered sadly, crouching down to pick up the bills one by one. Dad knelt down beside me, helping me gather them. When we finished, he tucked the money away and handed me a bank card. "I'll keep the cash for you. From now on, use this card instead. There's a lot of money in it, sweetheart. Spend it however you like." "Dad, my dear Dad," I carefully accepted the card, stroking it with my fingers. It didn't look like the regular cards I'd seen before, it was black. But still, it was my very first bank card. I remembered hearing from people at the market that you had to deposit a huge amount of money just to get one. Emily stared at Dad in disbelief. "Dad? Isn't that the birthday gift you were saving for me?" "Huh? Birthday gift? What's that?" I asked suddenly. In my memory, I could only vaguely recall having a birthday celebration when I was very little. But the details were already gone. I never had a birthday. My foster dad told me that each year that passed meant I grew 1 year older. So that's how I always counted my age. The guilt in Dad's eyes was impossible to hide now. He looked sternly at Emily. "Sweetheart just came home. Let her have this. I'll give you yours later." Then he turned to me. "May 17th, that's your birthday." I was overjoyed. Finally, I had a real birthday, just like everyone else. Everything that happened today felt like a dream. I had found my real parents. I had a brother, handsome, though not exactly the most rational. And a sweet little sister, though she cried a lot. I even had my very own bank card, and I now knew the date of my birth. What a perfect day. That night, I lay on the big, soft bed but couldn't fall asleep. I missed my old wooden plank bed. I wondered if, after I left, my foster parents would chop it up for firewood. I wandered downstairs and found my brother, Jason, playing with Brownie. Brownie was still awake too. I guessed he wasn't used to the soft dog bed either. Have you never thought about how much of a coincidence this all is? Jason asked. That Emily just happened to be adopted by Mom and Dad? No. I never thought about it, I replied, focused on playing with Brownie. You really are clueless. If it weren't for me, you'd probably still be cutting fish right now. He went on and on. I only understood about half of it. But then, I realized, it was my brother who had found me. After I got lost, while Mom and Dad eventually gave up hope, Jason never stopped searching. He told me they even gave my foster parents money, which made it easier for them to return me to my real family. I was so moved that I hugged Jason tightly. Brother, you really are my only brother. Cutting fish was exhausting. Thank you. You're still as silly as you were when you were little, he said, poking me on the forehead. I grinned at him, giggling. After that, he took me back to my room to rest. Of course, I brought Brownie up with me. Hugging his soft body, I finally felt sleepy and drifted into dreams. The next morning, Jason came to wake me. Mom and Emily were already downstairs, waiting for breakfast. Mom was feeding Emily and handing her a glass of milk. I stood nearby, staring hungrily. Dad noticed and turned to scold Mom. Sweetheart is standing right there, why are you only serving Emily? Only then did Mom seem to remember me. I lit up with joy. Mom, you must have known I don't like cow's milk, that's why you didn't give it to me. You're so thoughtful. But for some reason, Mom just looked embarrassed. Then Jason handed me a glass of milk. Drink more, or you'll stay short your whole life. Huh? This milk was different from the kind I drank before. It wasn't sour at all, actually, it tasted really good. I turned to Dad. Can I have some more? His eyes softened with pity. You can drink as much as you like. Then he added, even though our family has plenty of money, you still need an education. He explained that at my age, I could start in 10th grade. But my foundation was so weak that it took a lot of effort for him to get me into a high school at all. Emily was also enrolled there, but we weren't in the same grade. She was in an advanced 11th grade class, while I was placed in a regular 10th grade class. Jason studied there too, but he was already a senior. Jason even walked me to my classroom. Everyone had already heard about our family story. He told me that since Dad was a well-known businessman, gossip like this was normal. When I entered the class, students swarmed around me, firing question after question. But their questions were all too complicated, I couldn't understand a thing. So I just nodded or shook my head randomly. At lunchtime, Jason came to check on me. Emily showed up too, but it was clear she had really come for him. Her eyes shimmered with tears. Ever since she came back, you don't care about me anymore. Jason replied coldly, if that's how you feel, then think what you want. I hurried over and pulled them apart. Are you two fighting? We're family, we should get along. Who's family with you? Since you came back, Dad and Jason don't love me anymore. I hate you. Emily shouted in my face, then turned and ran. I stood frozen, staring at Jason. Why is she so mad? You know I always say the wrong things. Jason looked at me with deep frustration, his expression heavy. You're not just clumsy with words. You're slow in the head, too. That evening, Dad came to pick us up. Emily kept her mouth shut tight, not saying a word. The whole ride home was filled only with my voice. I talked nonstop about the new friends I'd made that day, what I had learned, and all the little things Jason had bought me. Emily's expression grew darker and darker. The moment we arrived home, she flung the car door open, ran inside, and locked herself in her room. Mom rushed over, knocking on her door, asking what had happened. Dad and Jason didn't seem concerned at all. Late at night, Mom came to me instead. Sweetheart, don't bully Emily, okay? I blinked in confusion. When did I ever bully her? Mom's tone softened. Then, could Mommy feed you sometimes too? Today I fed Emily, and you must have felt jealous. My eyes lit up eagerly. Really? Mom, I'd love that. She patted my head gently. All right. That night, I slept soundly. Sure enough, the next morning, Mom came to wake me up. She even fed me cookies and handed me a warm glass of milk. Dad watched her and smiled happily. But Emily was anything but happy. She slammed her plate onto the floor and demanded Mom and Dad take her away. Oh, she must be missing her parents, I thought to myself. I could understand that. So during lunch break at school, I borrowed Jason's phone. Using my memory, I dialed the number of my foster father. I told him that Emily missed him. He sounded pleased, asking for our school's address, saying he would come pick her up that very day. Jason glanced at me, smirking. Well, you're not completely clueless after all. Really? Hee, I've always thought I was kind of smart, I replied proudly. That evening, Dad came to pick us up as usual. But my foster father showed up too. Dad eyed him with clear suspicion. My foster father said to Dad, I came to pick up Emily. I heard she missed me. Emily froze, horrified, and quickly denied it. No, I didn't. Little sister, you don't miss your parents? I asked innocently. Dad's eyes also turned to Emily. She forced out a stiff smile. Of course I do. I knew it, she just didn't dare to admit it. She's a girl, of course she's shy. That's normal. Afterward, Dad handed my foster father some money. He told him that after all these years, they had raised Emily, so he hoped they would treat her well when she went back with them. This time, on the way home, it was just the three of us. All of us were smiling brightly, no heavy hearts, no tension. When we got back, Mom asked, "Where's Emily?" Dad replied, "Her biological parents came to take her home." Mom immediately scolded him. "You know very well what kind of people they are. How could Emily possibly endure that?" Dad snapped back at her. "And you know full well, the scars all over our daughter's body came from them. Since Sweetheart came home, have you shown her any real care?" It seemed like they were arguing because of me. Mom's tone quickly softened. Dad gave me a guilty look. I stepped forward and held both of their hands, telling them not to fight anymore. The past is already behind us. And besides, my wounds are almost healed. But as I spoke, I suddenly burst into tears. They both pulled me into their arms, holding me tightly. I felt so warm, so safe. A week later, Emily came running back, crying her heart out. She said her foster father, Mr. Strong, had tried to hit her and forced her to cut fish every day after school. She sobbed so bitterly it almost infected me too. I stepped forward to hug her, but she shoved me away, sending me crashing to the floor. Mom rushed over to help me up. "Are you hurt? Does it hurt?" I smiled sweetly. "No, it doesn't. I'm used to it. After raising Emily for so many years, my parents couldn't bring themselves to abandon her. So, in the end, they brought her back again." I clapped my hands and cheered. Jason's face darkened, and he pulled me aside. "You'd better start reading carefully." Seeing the intensity in his eyes, I nodded rapidly. I opened the book. Chapter 1, What is a Green Tea Girl? A green tea girl is someone who appears innocent, sweet, and pitiful on the outside, but in reality is full of schemes. I only half understood. On Sweet Milk Audio, I said cheerfully, "These days, my sister has been as obedient as Brownie. Whatever I pick up, she eats. No crying, no tantrums anymore." But then, I realized Brownie, my little dog, was gone. One evening when I came home, Emily whispered to me, "Brownie doesn't like living with the Lee family. He's already gone back to the Johnsons." She added, "Lily, you really should call yourself Lily Johnson, it sounds much better." Luckily, Brownie managed to find his way home on his own. After all, you're just dirty. While bathing Brownie, her words kept echoing in my head. That's when I realized my sister was exactly like the green tea girls described in that book. I remembered what chapter 2 said: the way to deal with a green tea girl is to appear even more pitiful than she does. So I hurried to Dad and repeated Emily's words to him, word for word. He was furious and glared at her. You've only been gone a week and already picked up this sharp tongue? Maybe Johnson Emily really suits you better. Emily dropped to her knees, begging. Please don't send me back. I was just angry, I didn't mean what I said. She looked so pitiful that I begged Dad to forgive her. Though she stayed in our family, Dad cut off her allowance. Not long after, Emily knocked on my door, begging me for money. If not, Mr. Johnson will beat me to death. But wasn't she already back with the Lees? Still, I gave her money. $1,000, the money I had earned while living with the Johnsons. I told her, now you can return it to them. One day, I saw Mr. Johnson again. He came looking for Emily, pulling her by the hand, seemingly trying to take her back. She said something quietly, and he left in anger. I remembered the book's lesson. When the enemy makes no move, you make no move. When the enemy moves, you move. So I immediately told Jason. He warned me to be careful, that he had some suspicions. Something big might happen soon, he added mysteriously. That same day, Emily came to me again. She asked me to go shopping with her. Remembering Jason's warning, I refused. She fell to her knees, begging me. Just then, many classmates passed by. Seeing them, Emily suddenly dropped to her knees before me, kowtowing with tears and snot all over her face. Jason really was a genius strategist. If it weren't for that book, I would have been the one suffering. I remembered what it said about handling situations like this. So, I knelt down too, facing her directly, and cried miserably as well. But Emily's health wasn't as strong as mine. I'd grown up used to being beaten, so I was tougher. She couldn't keep up. After only a few blows, she was exhausted and stopped. I kept going, my forehead thumping loudly against the ground, until the noise caused a scene. Jason rushed over, grabbing me by the arm and yanking me up. He was so angry he couldn't even speak. I grinned proudly at him. See, Jason? I studied that book you gave me really carefully. Hearing that, Emily fainted right there on the spot. I turned to my brother, asking loudly, should I faint too? I've never pretended to faint before. Emily was so furious that she jumped back to her feet, glaring at me with burning eyes. Everyone's eyes turned toward her, whispering among themselves. It seemed they were saying she had tried to set me up, but ended up humiliating herself instead. She wanted to frame me, but unexpectedly, I came out looking generous. That night, Dad heard about what happened and ordered Emily to go back to the Johnsons. Even Mom looked at her with guarded, unfamiliar eyes. I can't believe your heart is this dark, she said coldly. I even pitied you before. But from now on, I only love Lily. I want to make up for all the love she's missed. She even allowed Brownie to sleep in my room, saying she was afraid someone might take him away again. Emily's face was full of resentment as Mr. Johnson came to take her back. She glared at me as if I were her prey. The next day, Jason couldn't come to school because of a competition, and Dad told me he'd be late because of work. Emily finally saw her chance. She gathered a bunch of local thugs to surround me. But she was too foolish. They actually dared to block me at the school gate. But by now, my wits had reached a whole new level. I didn't even need the security guard. With quick hands and feet, I handled them all on my own. The guard looked at me with respect in his eyes. No big deal. After all, I'd spent years cutting fish, I had more than enough strength. I struck the sides of their necks with the edge of my hand. They dropped like dead fish, motionless. When Dad came to pick me up and heard what happened, he demanded that the principal expel Emily. The next day, I was even praised by the police. They said that gang of thugs had been causing trouble around the area for a long time. I had beaten them soundly. I even received a bravery award flag for my actions. I accepted it humbly. By senior year, Emily had already dropped out of school. I heard she went back to cutting fish. I even asked Aunt June to buy fish from her. She was passable at it, but nowhere near my level. She didn't even scrape the scales properly. Time passed so quickly. It had already been a year since I returned home. Jason finally told me his suspicions from before, that Mr. Johnson and his wife had intentionally abandoned Emily at our doorstep and deliberately kidnapped me. As he spoke, he broke down in tears, hugging me. All along, he had blamed himself, believing it was his fault for not watching me carefully, for losing me, until Mom and Dad found Emily. Then he wondered why everything felt so coincidental. And later, when our parents searched for me for years without success, they relied on Emily for comfort and gradually gave up. But Jason never stopped looking for me. "Little sister, can you forgive me?" he asked. I copied him, gently rubbing his handsome face. "How could I not forgive someone as good-looking as you? Besides, if it weren't for your persistence, I never would have made it back. This was all the fault of those bad people." "Thank you, Jason. But, you still owe me," I added mischievously. "Let me think, oh. My birthday's coming up. You'd better buy me the biggest cake I want. The kind with many layers," I told Jason. "It's been so long since I last had a birthday cake." "Got it." He nodded, eyes turning red. When my birthday finally came, the whole family was there. Since it wasn't a holiday, Jason had my big cake delivered straight to school. Every classmate received a slice, and I even bought each of them a small gift. It was the first birthday party I'd had in years. Dad's exact words were, "This is my daughter's birthday, it must be grand. Otherwise, it would tarnish the reputation of the richest man in City A." Everyone congratulated me. "Happy birthday, young lady. Long live the heiress." They even created a little servants' club, declaring they'd be willing to live and die for me. I felt embarrassed. Then I remembered Emily's birthday had always been celebrated on this very same day. So, I asked Aunt Linda to send her a slice too. Jason gave me a knowing look. "You're getting really skilled at making people jealous." "Huh? Who did I upset?" I asked, genuinely confused. Not long after, Emily called me. She wanted to meet and said she wished to apologize. Sure enough, she must have been moved by my thoughtfulness. Still, I was cautious. I asked Jason to follow behind me secretly. By now, I had trained myself to be wary, no longer naive. People always said I was dumb. But in truth, I wasn't dumb at all. I returned to the old fish market, but not to cut fish this time. Emily was the one wearing an apron now, the sound of her cleaver echoing against the chopping board. Blood splattered across her apron and the ground around her. I stood there in a spotless white dress, clearly out of place in that world. She shot me a cold glance. "Wait a bit. I'm almost done closing up." Later, we went together to my old house. Brownie's doghouse was gone, but my wooden plank bed was still there. Now, it was Emily sleeping on it. Her arms were covered with scars, just like mine once had been. Suddenly, Mr. Johnson and his wife, Vivian, rushed out. They tied me up tightly. I didn't struggle. I wanted to see what they were planning. Emily looked at me with venom in her eyes. "If it weren't for you, you worthless girl. I'm still living the life of a wealthy daughter in the Lee family. I worked so hard to switch fates with you, why would you want to switch back? Why can't you just keep cutting fish? Dad, Mom, do it. Kill her, and I'll return. I promise, once I win their favor, I'll make sure you enjoy luxury. Even if you're caught, I can use money to bail you out. As long as I can return, it will be worth it. Besides, you don't want Robert to find out, do you?" It was you two who deliberately swapped me and her all those years ago. God. Jason was right all along. He really was a genius. But the saying villains die by talking too much isn't wrong either. Outside, sirens blared, police had arrived. Jason had already called them. Not only that, he had recorded everything and handed the evidence over. My foster parents were arrested. Emily, no, I should say Johnson Emily, screamed every curse word she knew at me. But I was already used to that. It didn't anger me one bit. In fact, she wasn't even good at it. Then I remembered the last chapter of the anti-green tea handbook. If a green tea girl curses at you, respond with sarcasm. Break her down using her own tricks. So I grinned and said, haha, if it weren't for me, you'd have been chewed up and spat out already. I even made a heart gesture at her. She was so furious her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. Jason looked at me with admiration. One officer spoke into his radio, suspect unstable, transfer to hospital for observation. The police escorted us home. My parents pushed Jason aside, terrified, and wrapped their arms around me. Sigh. I'll always be the one disliked most, I thought. Brownie barked at Jason, woof. Woof. Jason picked him up. At least Brownie had a conscience. After that, my parents even hired bodyguards for me, who stuck to me day and night. It wasn't until I begged them to stop that they finally eased up, though they still never let me wander off alone. Not long after, Emily was charged with attempted murder. Mr. Johnson and his wife, Vivian, were charged with child abduction and kidnapping. All three were held in detention. Dad even spent some money to make sure they were treated decently. Beyond that, I didn't know, or care, what became of them. 3 years of high school passed. My grades were average, so I attended a second-tier private university. Jason inherited the family company and was busy day and night. As for me, I enjoyed a carefree life as a rich daughter, strolling around wherever I pleased. Mom and Dad often took me traveling, saying it was to make up for the childhood I had lost. Now, I truly felt I was happy at last.